Hello, 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 and good evening. It's Riikka Kovasin here with a Halloween lantern live. I'm recreating two of these soon, but let's first test that everything is alright. So, excuse me for a while. I'll check my computer that everything looks okay-ish there. Okay, it seems to be working. At least I can see the video, so hopefully it will be okay. There's still a couple of minutes before we actually start, so let's not start yet, but these are something we are recreating. Really easy peasy lanterns, or well, you can use these for candies as well. These are made of glass jars and just embellished with Finnabair goodies. But if you use these for candles or tea lights, then use the electric ones, the LED versions, because these won't stand the actual flame. So if somebody is here and they can see and hear me, please give a thumbs up or write a comment so I know everything is working. Hi Katja! This time I tested the sound before in my own Facebook page and it was okay, but I'm really hoping it will be okay during the live as well in this group. So, see and hear you. Perfect. Then we can start. This is going to be quite fast, I'm thinking. Let's see how it goes. But plenty of time for you to then catch Anna with her magical pumpkins later on. So it's Halloween throughout the evening. So, hi again. It's Riikka Kovasin here, and we're making some lanterns. At any time, if you have any questions, just write them, and if I catch them during the live, I'll of course answer them, but I'll go through all the comments later on as well. So let's get started. Oh, thank you, Matthias. I'm hoping I said your name somewhat correctly. So the bases are just empty glass jars, so nothing too fancy there. While you could use glass paint for these, acrylic works really nicely. And as I was thinking about adding a tea light inside, I wanted the layer to be translucent. So while you could use impasto paints, for example, those are opaque. And then if you put a candle inside, nothing will show through, or at least it will block the light greatly. So that's why I'm using the liquid acrylic, because it kind of looks like glass paint. Yeah, we need lanterns for Halloween. You're so right, Katja. It's pitch black outside. It's 8 o'clock here in Finland where I live, and it's pitch black, so we need a lot of candles and lanterns. While I'm speaking, I'm tearing pieces out of tissue paper, and I'm using the liquid acrylic to adhere these to the surface. While I could just add the paint, as you can see here, hopefully, I wanted something to have more kind of flames. So I'm not mixing two different liquid colors, but instead I'm adhering the tissue paper using the liquid acrylic on top. Let's hope that's enough. So let's put some acrylic here. Come on. Open. Let's start with the bigger one. These are opaque looking when they come out of the jar, but when you then take a brush, it's nice and translucent layer. And then just let's add a piece of tissue paper here. And I'm not using any other glue, just the acrylic, as it kind of, well, glues to the surface I'm painting. I can use that as an adhesive, because acrylics more like stick to a surface than are absorbed by it. So they make wonderful adhesives as well. Nothing too bulky or too heavy, just the paints they want, or at least this fluid paint they won't hold, but it's perfect for collaging. So I'm coloring the glass jar at the same time I'm adding some texture to it. I'm kind of alternating between the red and, hey Lena, red and yellow paper, overlapping them a little so I get this kind of flame surface or idea. Let's move these and then a little bit more. If you don't have the liquid acrylics, you could also use just the soft body gels to adhere the tissue paper pieces on top, so you don't have to use, but if you have the liquid acrylics, this is a great way to use them, kind of instead of glass paint. And then you don't need to put this into the oven, as these will hold, not like wear and tear too much, like if you take a dishwasher or washing brush or something, they will then slip away. But just a regular embellishment or home decor piece, they will be fine. If you're just joining in, hello, I'm making some Halloween lanterns and I'm adhering tissue paper pieces to a glass jar using liquid acrylic. The color I'm using is tiger orange, but if you're making these a lot, for example, you can then alternate between different colors, do some in yellow, some in orange, or some in red even. So that's kind of the first layer. Then let's do a smaller one, but for that I need a couple of more pieces of the tissue paper. A couple of the yellow and then a couple of the red. Then these can dry while we make the embellishments. I'm just using a flat wide brush so I can cover a bigger area at one go. First applying the paint underneath the tissue paper so it kind of grabs to the surface immediately, and then adding some on top so it will be nicely between the acrylic layers. These are the Halloween versions, but of course you could do some with blue liquid acrylic for winter if you want a chillier tone. Hi Danny, good morning. It's 8 p.m. here, so almost day gone still, but you have something to look forward to the whole day of crafting, I hope. I'm doing some Halloween lanterns for lit tea lights, and this is the first layer. I'm applying tissue paper using liquid acrylic as my adhesive and kind of giving the glass jar also some color so it looks like it would be glass paint. Couple of more pieces and then we are done with this step. Maybe a touch of red still, that is too big, but let's make it a little bit smaller. And a touch on top. Here we go. The bases are done. While they now dry, I could use a heat tool, but I can do something else while those dry. And even though I have the embellishments here ready, I'm surprisingly using hot glue to make some of the embellishments and adhere them. So I thought I'm showing you how I make these, because hot glue is my #1 medium to use with the molds. So I have a bigger hot gun, and then it's simply just adding the glue to the mold. Naturally, then when you use these embellishments, you need to remember that they are made of hot glue. And for example, these little lanterns are not for actual candles, but the electric LED ones, so they don't get warmer. This is really easy. Hey Helena! Just applying the hot glue to the silicone mold. And then I just let them cool. And where you can see that they are cool enough to be removed, they start to go cloudy. Hot glue is this really transparent when it's still hot, but then they turn kind of cloudy, and then you know you can pop them out of the mold. Hi Diane! If you have any questions, just let me know. I've covered the jars so far using liquid acrylic and some tissue paper, making kind of flame looking bases. And now they are drying and we are making the embellishments. I pre-painted some with white gesso, as these are made of hot glue, so I can't use a heat tool to dry these between layers. Otherwise they will melt. A layer of the gesso will cover them or protect them a little bit, so they stand just a teeny tiny bit better than without. but still, just remember that they are not heat resistant. To turn them to bones or bony looking, I'm just painting with white gesso and probably needing a couple of layers to get a good coverage, as this is plastic. So one layer is okay-ish, but let's make it another layer here on top where there is already one layer, so it's more solid white. And also you need some place to hold on to, so that probably always causes some of the paint to wear away in your fingers. So better make a couple of layers. Just one more bone. I'm really loving the bird skull. It's my favorite from the molds. I've used it quite a lot. And it's always this skull, because I find that this one is really mean or eerie looking. So I usually use that one. Now they can dry for a while. Then let's make the base for the skull pieces, and that's just making a little rosette out of black paper. I have one pre-cut here, and then I need another strip for the other one, a little bit wider. For the medium one, I think I got a 3 cm version, and for the bigger one, this is 3.5, so about 1 inch and then 1 inch and 1/4. And then I need to make some fold lines. So I'm using a paper cutter and just scoring every centimeter. Let me move up a little bit more to the center of the camera, although this is quite a boring looking stage. I'm not being too careful, just thereabouts. Of course, the better you measure, the nicer the end result will be, as the highs and lows, like the accordion type of fold, will be more accurate if you now use time. Naturally, there's the scoring boards as well, or then there's even dies to make these, so you don't have to use a paper cutter. But if you don't have those, you can do those this way as well. Just scoring a strip of paper and then folding it back and forth to make the rosette. A couple of more. 28 and then probably 29, yeah. And then just folding back and forth. Come on, where's the crease? There we go. Moi Jonna! Tervetuloa! Minä täällä tällä hetkellä taittelen tämmöstä rosettia, eikä onneksi ihan hirveästi haittaa, että tulee valkoista maalia siihen, kun roiskeita tulee päälle. I just said in Finnish that it doesn't matter even if I get white print on my little accordion fold piece, because I'm then going to splatter white paint on top anyway. So if you're just joining in, hi, it's Riikka Kovasin here with a simple little Halloween lantern DIY, let's say. I've already covered the lanterns with tissue paper and fluid acrylic, so they look like they've been painted with glass paint and kind of flame idea with the tissue paper. Then I made quickly some embellishments using hot glue and the silicone molds, and now I'm making a little base for the embellishments. While the hot glue embellishments dry, they have white gesso on top, and the glass jars dry because of the liquid acrylic. This is a bit tedious, but shouldn't take too long. I'm just scoring the strip of paper every centimeter to get that accordion fold. Like I said earlier, there's even dies to make this, so if you are in a hurry, that's a great way to do one. And then just folding it back and forth. Like an accordion fold. Couple of more. There's not that many mediums in this little make. One still to come, black gesso that is. But I thought that sometimes these simple versions might be fun. And then let's add some hot glue here. Oops, let's leave it here. And then I'm attaching the ends together. Just leaving that to cool off for a while. The same with this one. Then we need some base for need to glue it on. Jonna is asking about the mould. Eli siis ihan kuumaliimaa. Se on mun ihan lemppari, mitä mä käytän niihin. Mä voin näyttää sen vielä kun toi kuumaliima tossa nyt on kuumana. So she was asking about what I used to make the mold, so hot glue. Now it was cloudy, like I was telling earlier, that it's clear when it comes out of the gun and then turns cloudy when it's done. Eli sitten tulee tommonen vähän niinku harmaampi, kun se on kuivahtanut, mutta tosiaan ihan vaan kuumaliimaa. Se on mun ihan ykkönen näihin muottijuttuihin. Toki pitää muistaa, että se on kuumaliimaa, eli kuumaliimapistooli ei parane paljon käyttää tai lähtee koristeet sulamaan. So, just like that. Definitely my favorite way to make the embellishments using the mold. Only that you need to then remember that it's hot glue, so you won't ruin it with heat. Then let's see if my... Okay, hot glue, beware of your fingers. Now it holds that much that I can put it underneath one of the ready lanterns, and hopefully it will still stay put. And then the other one. Hey, mitä? You're quite welcome. Yeah, I think hot glue, it's not my invention. I've seen it someplace, but I've been using it for years and years now. Because then you can use any kind of acrylic on top to make it whatever you want. If you want to make it look like bone, or if you want to make it look like it's metallic or grungy. Let me grab this little embellishment here. Again, hot glue. Just painted with black gesso and then foiled. So there's numerous possibilities then to use it. And the funny part is that it's bendable, because if you use resin to cast these, then they are solid, at least to my knowledge. But if you would like to have something wrapped around the jar, you can then do it. Just add a little bit heat and it becomes more even moldable, or then use strong adhesive and you can wrap these embellishments around something, but just that they don't hold to the heat. So if you make these, for example, then use LED candles, or otherwise your embellishments will start melting. Now that we have the bases done, we need to add one more layer for the jars. Oh, actually I need to make, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to make the eye as well. It's made out of pebble. These are the Melange pebbles, which I'm using to make the eyes also for my, well, let's say them art dolls. They are not gorgeous looking art dolls, but my characters are those. These are handy for it. So it's just the clear pebble, and then we need to make the eye to the back. So let's start by adding some paint to the table. A little bit smaller. This is an older Finnabair stencil. Just has different kinds of bubbles or circles. You could of course freehand it as well, but at least no. Let's use the sponge. I think it will be nicer. But at least I can draw a perfect circle. I'm not sure a Halloween eye needs to be a perfect circle though. Like it's so. This is going to be the iris. But if it's going to be the iris, there's something wrong with it, as there needs to be the black part inside. So first I make the whole iris and then I put the stencil on top, and this is wet. Let me put a little beginning, and I'm kind of scratching the excess away. Has been moving. The other option is to use hand sanitizer or rubbing alcohol, because those dissolve acrylic paint even better than just water. Then let's add the black part. Sorry, I'm silent. I just can't speak. I'm hoping not to get the black over the iris. Let's see. Okay, let's do another layer quickly. Just to make it a little bit more black. Luckily, this is something I can use the heat tool to. So now we have this kind of looking eye. If you want more details, then by all means you could add little lines like the muscles in the iris, but this is just for the decoration, so I'm keeping it quite simple and really just a couple of layers. And then let's paint the back white. Here I'm not trying not to go over the edges at least too much, so it will look like the shiny glossy eye. Probably needing another layer just to make it extra white. There's such a heavy layer of mediums that they start to react with each other. Okay, now there's some staining, but here we go. Here we have the eye. And the eye was kind of the reason why I called this Peekaboo, because I can see you with the little Halloween eye. But yeah, then let's insert the last medium, and then we just need to put these together, and then you can go and watch Anna do her magic with the pumpkins. So I'm wrapping the stencil around my little jar and hoping to secure it so that I can get a nice stenciled image on top. Why I'm doing this is because I was thinking of using these with LED candles or tea lights. I thought that the black gesso will block the light, so it's like there would be a pattern, kind of card pumpkin, but the other way around. So most of the lantern will let the light past. Sorry about the wobbly camera now, because I'm using the sponge. So most of the lantern will let the light pass, but these heavy black gesso areas then will block the light and cause a lovely little detail or extra thing to the lantern. Kind of shadow, playing with shadows, hopefully. Here we go. It's not super crispy, as I'm not able to put the stencil really close to the jar because I'm wrapping it around, so it causes it to move and be a little bit off the surface, but it's okay. If you want a crispier image, then Prima has those redesigned stencils that are sold in rolls. So they are thinner material, meant to be, they have adhesive in the back, so they are kind of meant to be wrapped around things. So if you are looking for a really crisp image, that might be the solution, to use such a stencil. And don't get whoopsie daisy, now we are off focus. Better. Don't be alarmed by my table. This is actually what's it called? Plastic wrap? No, it's not a wrap. But anyway, I can remove it and replace it. Add a new one, so that's why I'm using the table as my palette. Oops. Sorry about the noise. Now, I didn't go through the whole thing, but I'm sure you get the idea. And if you want to keep your stencils working, then clean them after using gesso. I just put mine to a bucket of water underneath the table so I can clean them after the live. Then just a couple of more details and these are going to be finished. Let's see if this one is, well, not totally dry yet, so let's dry it a little bit. Do you know where you can see easily if the gesso is dry or if you need to dry it, if it's still wet? It's just the shine. Gesso will turn totally matte after it's completely dry. So if you can see some kind of glossy spots, then it's still wet, and either you need to wait or then use a heat tool, or then just work on, depending what you're doing. This is just... Hi Joanne! This is just black twine, kind of this rough version. Thought it would fit. Why I'm adding it? 2 reasons. Because like it's making an additional detail, but also because I'm using hot glue to adhere the embellishment on top. It gives some kind of ground for the hot glue to stick, as well as the tissue paper in the lantern. If you use hot glue on such a sleek surface as glass, it will definitely grab onto it, but after a while it may come loose if there's some changes in the temperature, for example, or kind of mechanical bend to the place, because hot glue ain't the most sturdiest from what I know, the crafty versions, but it's fast, so it's okay for these lanterns. Normally I would use the heavy body or 3D gel for any kind of dimensional work. They work perfectly for that. And then some white sewing thread. This is kind of imitating cobweb in the piece, so I'm just grabbing a handful, adding it on top, then a little bit wider because otherwise it won't show underneath this one. Then a bunch of hot glue, and that in place. Let's repeat to the other one. Again, just handful of white sewing thread. This on top, then we need to add the splashes before we add these in, and also the skull versions or the bone versions need a touch of black gesso, where that's the one I've painted twice. Then let me get rid of, I'm using the same sponge and kind of really lightly going around the edges. If it would be just a touch drier, it would be better. I can use my finger to kind of make it a little bit smudgier, so there's not places of just black paint, but kind of variation in the white. Here we go. And to the bones as well. And then I had another bone, there it is. Hello Deborah, thank you for joining in. We are almost done with the lanterns that are made using liquid acrylic, then just black gesso, white gesso, and some thread. These are really easy. To make the splashes, I wanted them to be a little bit dimensional, so I'm mixing just regular craft glue to the white gesso to give it a little bit more body. So this kind of thicker paste, and then I of course need water to be able to flick it from my brush. Let's see if it would work already. Yep. The funny part with this kind of heavy, thicker medium to splash is that it flies everywhere. I'm really hoping not to get it to my computer, but everywhere else it's going to be. Here we go. I don't know about you, but to me this is more Halloween than the black, just the black cardstock. Kind of like cobwebs on top. So then we need just a little bit more cobwebs. If you have the artificial web, naturally you can use that. If you don't, then use white sewing thread kind of to mimic or give the idea that it's spider web. Just some underneath, then hot glue, and let's put the eye in. Here as well, if you're using hot glue like I am now, with the hot glue embellishment, remember that the hot glue is hot. So don't go overboard or you may end up melting your embellishment. But you need enough, of course, for it to then stick to the surface you're adhering it to. There again, the heavy body gel is handier as it's not hot, so it will not melt your embellishments. And there we go, they are done. So now we have a bunch of little lanterns to be used to kind of bring light to Halloween. Or if you make them bigger, you can use those for candy, or if you want to make a bowl or something, the same applies. Just if you're making candy jars, for example, you can use impasto. These were just thought like the light will shine through. Thank you so much for coming. Kiitos kun tulitte. Jos on kysymyksiä, niin ei muuta kuin kirjoittelemaan niitä. If there's any questions, just leave them here. But these are really straightforward. Just maybe a thought you might not known or used before, like using the acrylic as an adhesive. And then these are my favorite embellishments because they turn into anything, like eyes in this case. And then, of course, using hot glue with the fabulous Finnabair molds. So, thank you, Katja, thank you, Danny, thank you, Joanne, for coming and for commenting. Hi, Deborah, and I'll wish you a good day or good night. And don't forget about Anna's live about the pumpkins starting in about 10 minutes. Thank you. Kiitos. Bye bye. Have a nice evening or day.